Part 1. The Shifting Portrait. Ethan Moore had always been drawn to forgotten things. Old cameras with dust-covered lenses, books with broken spines, rusted metal signs that told stories long lost to time. He collected them with the care of an archaeologist and the awe of a child discovering treasure. His tiny apartment above the photo studio he worked in was a museum of the unloved and the unknown. So when he saw the painting, he was instantly hooked. It was a cloudy Sunday afternoon when Ethan stumbled into a back-alley antique store he had never noticed before, tucked between a boarded-up bakery and a condemned tailor's shop. The wooden sign above the door simply read, "Curio." Inside, the place smelled of mildew and wax. The air was thick and still, as though time had stopped. An old man with glassy eyes and yellowed teeth gave Ethan a toothless smile but said nothing. Ethan wandered slowly, fingers trailing along shelves filled with porcelain dolls, cracked clocks, and strange symbols carved into wood. Then he saw it. A large rectangular canvas leaned against a dusty table near the back, partially covered by a moth-eaten velvet cloth. He pulled the cloth away and froze. The painting was of a narrow hallway, dimly lit by a single hanging bulb. At the far end stood a woman in a long black dress. Her skin was pale as porcelain, her hair jet black, cascading over her shoulders. Her face was expressionless, her eyes shut. She seemed almost serene, but something about her posture unsettled him. She was stiff, too stiff, like a mannequin about to move. No signature, no date. "Where did this come from?" Ethan asked, looking over his shoulder. The old man shrugged. "Donated, no price tag, so $50? Ethan didn't hesitate. Back home, the painting went straight up on the wall above his couch. Claire, his girlfriend of 2 years, came by later that night and raised an eyebrow. "You always bring home creepy stuff," she muttered, arms crossed. "But this is next level." "Don't you think it's hauntingly beautiful?" he replied. "She looks like she's going to crawl out of that thing and eat your face." "Don't be dramatic." Claire shook her head and turned back to her laptop. "Fine, but if you start having nightmares, don't come crying to me." The first night, Ethan didn't sleep well. He kept waking up, heart pounding, with the image of the woman behind his eyes, always standing there, silent, watching with her eyes closed. He got up around 3:17 a.m. to get water. As he passed the living room, he glanced at the painting and stopped. His skin prickled. The woman's head was turned slightly to the left. He stared for a full minute, then rubbed his eyes. "I'm just tired," he muttered. "I imagined it that way before." Still, something deep in his gut whispered otherwise. The second night, he set up his phone to record a time-lapse of the painting overnight. The next morning, he reviewed the footage. For the first 4 hours, nothing changed. But at 2:44 a.m., the screen flickered, just a glitch, he told himself. Then, in a single frame, her eyes were open. Wide, empty, black. Ethan dropped the phone. Claire watched the footage later and frowned. "Could be a bug in the camera," she said. "Light reflection, compression artifact." "It's not." She gave him a look. "Ethan, you've always had an overactive imagination. That's what you said about the mirror that bled. That was red paint." He didn't argue, but that night he couldn't bring himself to sleep in the same room as the painting. The third night, Claire stayed over. They fell asleep on the pull-out couch. Around 1 a.m., a distant creaking noise woke Claire. She blinked in the dark and looked toward the painting. The hallway was unchanged. The woman stood in her usual place, but hadn't her arms been at her sides? Now they were slightly lifted. Reaching forward, Claire slowly sat up. "Ethan?" he groaned, still half asleep. "Ethan, wake up." "What?" Her arms moved. He sat up groggily. "What are you talking about?" "The woman. She moved." He turned on the light. The painting looked the same again. "You're messing with me." "I'm not." They took the painting down the next morning and placed it face down in the hallway closet. That night, they heard thumping from the inside. Ethan became obsessed. He scoured the internet, digging through forums about haunted art and cursed objects. On a subreddit called r/Canvas of the Damned, he found a blurry image of the same painting posted 5 years ago by a user named u/FromTheFrame. "I can't sleep. Every night, she moves. I destroyed the camera footage. I thought it would stop, but she keeps getting closer." The account had no other posts. Ethan tried messaging but got no reply. The account had been deleted. Claire begged him to get rid of it. "I can't," he said. If I throw it away, someone else could find it, then burn it. It won't let me. On the seventh night, Ethan had a dream. He stood in a hallway identical to the one in the painting. The bulb above flickered. The floor creaked. From the far end, the woman approached. Her face was cracked like porcelain, her eyes leaking black tears. Her mouth opened slowly, wider and wider, until it unhinged. She whispered, "One more night." Ethan woke up screaming. He called in sick and drove to the address scratched into the wooden frame, 193 Whitmore Street, a small house in a decaying neighborhood. The door was unlocked. Inside, everything was covered in sheets. A layer of dust blanketed the floor. In the back room, he found a studio filled with canvases, each one showing different scenes of the same hallway. In every painting, the woman was closer. He found a journal beneath the floorboards. The handwriting was erratic. She was my muse, my masterpiece, but she wanted more. She wanted freedom. She wanted out. I painted her prison, but it's weakening. Each pair of eyes brings her closer. She feeds on being seen. The last entry read, "She's out. God forgive me." Ethan raced back home. The apartment was empty. Claire's phone was on the table, and the closet was open. The painting was gone. A trail of black footprints led to the bedroom. There on the wall hung the painting again. But this time, Claire was in it. Standing in the hallway, her mouth open in a silent scream. The woman was behind her, smiling. Ethan fell to his knees, sobbing. The woman had moved again. She was inches from Claire. He tried to tear the canvas, but it was hard as stone. He poured gasoline and set it aflame. The fire danced for seconds, then vanished, swallowed into the painting like water into a sponge. On the wall, the hallway grew darker. Now there were two figures inside, Claire and Ethan. The next morning, the painting was gone. Only a blank, scorched rectangle remained on the wall. A week later, a teenage boy browsing in the same antique shop stumbled across a strange, unpriced painting. A hallway, a flickering bulb, a young couple standing at the far end, staring out, eyes wide, mouths open, as though screaming, but no one could hear. Part 2. The Woman in the Frame. The painting was gone, but Ethan Moore's screams still echoed in that cursed apartment, even after the police sealed it off. No sign of forced entry, no blood, no trace of Claire, just a scorched patch on the wall, and two names now added to the growing list of disappearances linked to 193 Whitmore Street. But Ethan wasn't dead. He was inside. One the collector, miles away, in a dimly lit study filled with relics from forgotten wars and forgotten worlds, Father Donovan lit a candle and turned the page of a tattered black book. It was filled with sketches, horrors captured in ink, living dolls, mirrors that showed futures that never came, and most recently, paintings. He stared at one sketch in particular, the corridor. Beneath it was written, "Entity, Lilith, spirit of hunger, trapped in layered dimension through ritual art, bound to canvas by the blood of Creator, weakens with observation." His old fingers trembled as he whispered to himself, "It's still moving, still feeding." A chime rang. He turned to see a young woman standing in the doorway, pale, trembling, and wide-eyed. "I saw it," she said. "I saw the painting move." Her name was Mira, a graphic designer and true crime enthusiast who had followed a Reddit thread into something far darker than she ever expected. And she had seen the woman in the frame. 2. The new viewer. Mira had purchased the painting from the same antique shop Ethan once visited under the same cracked sign, Curio. The shopkeeper didn't remember ever selling it. "It wasn't here before," he muttered, confused. "I would have noticed that." But Mira did notice it. The moment she walked past, it called to her. The woman in the hallway, the flickering bulb, the strange, frozen expressions of a man and woman in the background, Ethan and Claire. She didn't recognize them then. Not until later, when she compared the faces with missing persons reports. The horror began that same night. At 2:33 a.m., her cat began growling at the painting. Then the lights began to flicker. When she looked again, the woman's head had tilted just slightly to the left. And Mira knew this was not a trick of the mind. 3. Father Donovan's warning. Desperate, Mira found her way to Father Donovan through an online forum for cursed artifacts. He was one of the few left who didn't laugh when she mentioned the painting. He sat across from her in his study, listening closely. "She watches," Mira said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She waits until I blink. Every night she gets closer." Donovan nodded solemnly. Lilith isn't just a ghost, she's a hunger, an echo trapped in a spiritual prison that crafted by her own desire to live beyond death. Can she be stopped? She can be, contained. He retrieved a thick box from under his desk and opened it. Inside was a bundle of red thread, a mirror shard, and a vial labeled Oil of Stillness. You must perform the binding ritual, alone at midnight. If it's done correctly, she'll remain sealed in the painting. But if you fail, she gets out, worse, you go in. 4. The ritual begins at 11:47 p.m. Mira prepared. She dimmed the lights, set the mirror shard beside the canvas, lit the candle, and tied the red thread in a triangle on the floor, surrounding the painting. She anointed the corners with the oil of stillness, whispering the Latin words Donovan had etched on parchment. Custodian figura, anima non nata, obstrinxit per oculorum silentium. The painting flickered once, subtle, like static on a screen. Then the hallway inside deepened. Shadows grew longer. The woman's hands lifted from her sides. A creak behind Mira. She turned. Nothing. When she looked back, Lilith's eyes were open, jet black, hollow. Mira stumbled back, heart racing, the candle flickering violently. The figure inside the painting moved again. 2 steps forward. The thread sizzled. The mirror cracked. Mira screamed. 5. Inside the frame. Ethan sat alone in the corridor. No matter how far he ran, the hallway never ended. The same flickering bulb lacked, the same rotting floorboards, and the same voice whispering just behind his ear, "You watched too long." Claire was gone, swallowed. He still saw her sometimes, reflections in the shattered glass windows. But she never spoke, only stared. When the wall behind him pulsed like stretched skin, Ethan knew someone new was watching the painting from outside. He banged on the invisible wall. "Don't look!" But his words went unheard. 6. Mira's descent. Mira awoke on the floor, her candle burnt out. The painting looked unchanged, but the thread had been broken. She vomited into the sink, dizzy and disoriented. When she stumbled back into the living room, the woman was now closer than ever, and there was someone new in the painting, a third figure, herself. Mira collapsed. 7. Donovan's sacrifice. The next morning, Donovan arrived at Mira's apartment to find her cold and shaking, seated in front of the painting with her eyes wide open. She wouldn't blink. Couldn't. "She's inside," Mira whispered. "She's watching through me." Donovan wrapped the painting carefully and took it back to the chapel. That night, he sealed the chapel's doors and prepared for one final confrontation. He stood before the painting with a sacred blade and whispered the rite of final binding, a ritual meant only for those willing to trade soul for seal. Lilith emerged slowly, her smile widening. "Old man," she rasped, "you see me now." Donovan stared into the painting and whispered, "I see enough." He plunged the blade into his own chest, spilling blood onto the canvas. It hissed, cracked, glowed red. Lilith screamed, distorted and guttural. Then silence. The painting darkened. All 3 figures, Ethan, Claire, and Mira, froze, trapped. 8. A new beginning. Weeks passed. The antique shop closed. The painting was never found. Until a month later, in a high-end gallery downtown, a mysterious canvas appeared in the Modern Expressions exhibit. It had no title, just an image, a hallway, and 3 shadowy figures inside, faces twisted in silent screams. A man stares too long, a woman blinks once, and behind them, Lilith smiles. Part 3. The Final Portrait. 1. Shadows on canvas. The gallery was quiet, too quiet. The hum of fluorescent lights overhead barely filled the silence as Julian Hart, a junior art curator, wandered the exhibit hall late at night. He wasn't supposed to be here after closing, but something about the unnamed painting in Gallery Room 7 haunted him. It had arrived with no paperwork, no artist, no provenance, just a plain black frame and that hallway. The painting's shadows shifted subtly when no one was looking. The bulb above flickered endlessly. The figures inside, the man, the woman, and a third, were twisted in terror. and behind them, her, a woman in black, porcelain skin, eyes like empty wells. Julian couldn't look away, and when he blinked, her smile grew. 3 trapped souls. Inside the painting, Ethan, Claire, and Mira were prisoners of stillness. Each tried at first to resist, to run, to scream loud, but the hallway fed on hopelessness, and time did not pass inside the frame, only flickering, repeating, endless waiting. Ethan knelt in a corner of the hallway, whispering Claire's name, but Claire no longer responded. Her eyes were glazed, her skin faded. She was becoming part of it. Mira paced restlessly, still trying to calculate a way out, drawing sigils on the floor with blood from a cut she had forced herself to make, repeating Father Donovan's chant. Custodi in figura, anima non nata. But Lilith was stronger now. Donovan's sacrifice had only bought time. Dove 3. The art historian Julian couldn't stop thinking about the painting. He searched through databases, forums, even old occult tomes at the university's closed stacks. Eventually, he found a reference in a banned volume titled Painted Prisons and the Soulbound. The illustration was unmistakable. The hallway, the bulb, the woman. Lilith, the trapped hunger. Origin, binding ritual failed. Power grows through viewers. Exit is only granted through the final portrait, where the cursed becomes the creator. Julian's hands trembled. What did the curse becomes the creator mean? 4. Into the frame. That night, Julian returned to the gallery with a bag full of candles, chalk, an old paintbrush, and a canvas of his own. He had no training in ritual magic, but enough obsession to try. He sat cross-legged before the painting, drew a circle of salt, and whispered aloud, "I offer passage. Trade. 1 for 1. Let me in." The bulb in the hallway flickered violently. The woman in the painting turned her head. Julian's vision went black. He opened his eyes to find himself inside the corridor. The air was heavy, stale. The light buzzed, and the floor beneath his feet creaked like damp wood. Mira spotted him first. "Who the hell are you?" Julian stammered. "I came to get you out, all of you." Ethan approached, eyes sunken. "You came in? On purpose?" "Yes. I think there's a way." Claire was silent. She didn't move anymore. Julian's voice cracked. "But we need to make a new portrait. That's the key. We trap her in it, like Whitmore did." Mira shook her head. "We don't have paints or brushes. We can't even breathe properly." Julian raised the brush he had smuggled in, somehow still in his pocket, and a small canvas rolled in cloth. "It's not much, but I think it'll work." From the far end of the hallway, a whisper rose. "You want to paint me?" Lilith stood at the edge of the darkness, her form rippling. Her smile cracked wider. "Let's make something. Beautiful." 5. The painting ritual. Julian sat cross-legged, heart racing, while Mira and Ethan kept their eyes on Lilith. Every time they blinked, she moved closer, her joints bending unnaturally like a spider folding in on itself. Julian dipped the brush into blood, his own, and began to paint. Stroke by stroke, he etched her face, her shadow, the flickering bulb, and finally the hallway, but empty. "No figure may enter," he whispered. "No door shall open." Lilith hissed from behind him. "You think a child with a brush can undo my prison?" She lunged. Mira screamed, trying to shield Julian. Lilith's hand caught her throat, black tendrils curling around her neck. "Keep painting!" Mira gasped. Julian's hands blurred. The final stroke, a blood-sealed frame around the new canvas. The hallway and the painting twisted. Lilith let out a shriek so high the walls cracked. Claire's body collapsed. Then, silence. 6. Shattered walls. Julian blinked. He was lying on the gallery floor. Mira sat beside him, bruised but breathing. Ethan was clutching Claire's hand, weeping. The original painting on the wall now showed only the hallway. No figures, no woman, just an empty corridor. And the new painting Julian had made lay beside him, sealed. Lilith's image burned into it, her face frozen in fury. They had won, or so they thought. 7. The price Claire never woke up. Her soul had unraveled too deeply into the painting. Mira left the city and never returned to art again. Ethan took the sealed canvas to Donovan's chapel and buried it under concrete, surrounded by salt and scripture. Julian? He became famous. His final portrait was hailed as visionary, haunting, revolutionary. Collectors offered millions, but he refused to sell it. Until one night, it vanished. 8. Epilogue. The eyes. Some say the painting returned to the gallery on its own. Others say Julian hung it in his bedroom before he went mad. But one thing is certain, it still exists. And if you see it, if you stare too long, if you feel a presence behind you while you read this, Do not blink, do not turn around, because she is watching, and she remembers you.